Hey, what's going on, y'all? This is Richard Rich back at y'all with another show. Tonight we have special guest. She goes by the name of Lotus Nurse. How you doing tonight, Lotus Nurse?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Great, 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 great.
Very
Great
good.
under the circumstances. We know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so can you tell the people a little bit about yourself?
Yes. I am a master's prepared registered nurse and I live in Chicago.
Okay.
I currently work as faculty. So I've been in this long enough that I'm actually teaching nurses now.
Oh, okay. So you had
Mhm.
to have special training to teach nurses or how?
Well, not necessarily. You just need to like be a nurse and like just continue to educate yourself. And so I've taught at a couple of different levels of nursing at this point. I've been a nurse for 10, almost 11 years.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
So you like the teaching aspect more than actually being a nurse?
Yes. I love the tea. Well, initially, when I began nursing, of course, I was working in the hospitals, taking care of patients, and I absolutely love that part of it. But eventually, the further you get along in your career, you start wanting to do stuff that requires less back aching work. And so that's how I fell into teaching.
Oh, okay.
Hmm. And
Wow.
then I was ready to start producing, especially after my experience in nursing school, after hearing about other people's experience in nursing school and knowing about the the issues that certain demographics have in nursing school. I definitely wanted to dive into that and have an impact in that area.
Oh, okay. So, what, if you don't mind talking about it, what did you do before you started nursing? 'Cause you say you was doing nurse for 11 years, right?
Yeah, for 11 years. I worked in business and finance. So
Mm.
I also have a bachelor's degree in business management and finance.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And educate black sister. I got you. Okay, ain't nothing
Yes,
wrong with
sir.
that. They say black women go to school for like 30 years.
Yeah, shit. We got to go to school in order to get ahead, in order to get a decent paying job. Shoot, they make you go to school.
And women they it's a whole nother study, but they be in their 50s talking about, yeah, I'm still in school, you know what
Yeah, yeah. Trust me, I know.
I'm saying? So tonight's subject we talking about COVID-19,
Yes,
aka coronavirus. First
yes.
of all, I want to ask you, why do they make the coronavirus like a green icon when it's supposed to be like red, I think? Is it
It's
red?
like a reddish orange color. And then the emoji that they made for it, they have it green. I don't know why they did that.
Come on now, you the expert now. You gotta
Yeah,
tell me.
okay, so I'm not an expert on that part of it, so I
I'm
don't
messing
know
with
why on earth.
you. I'm just messing with you. I'm just messing with you.
I know.
So, what's your whole thoughts on this COVID-19? What did you think from the start when they announced it? Let's go back to China. When they said it was in China, what did you think about it?
So initially, I didn't, I know all of this began around October-ish, November-ish of last year. I hadn't even heard about it at that time. I didn't hear about it until probably February or so of this year. And when I initially heard about it, it was like, okay, it's a virus, and that was my thoughts on it. It's a virus. Okay, viruses, you get sick for a couple of days, your body recovers, and you go on. That's it. So I didn't know very much about it. I had no clue whatsoever. I didn't take this seriously until they called a global pandemic. That's when I began taking it seriously.
Oh,
So
okay. So you thought, oh, China, there's some little shit over there. Ain't nothing really going on. Did you believe all the people that they were saying that was catching it over there and all that?
Um, once I heard about it, I actually did kind of believe what they were saying, what I was hearing, only because China is very densely populated. So I can see something that's supposed to be flu-like spreading easily in a very closely or densely populated area. I can't see that happening. So once I heard what was going on, once I heard that, well, it started in China and then it was spreading like wildfire and it made its way here, I could see that happening as well because of global travel and so on.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because when I first heard of it, I was like, well, if it's over there, it could be, people could jump on the plane and bring it over here. So I'm thinking like, how they controlling this stuff?
You really can't.
Then you start
So
seeing them spraying with these trucks and all this. I'm like, how is this not here yet? Like,
they were spraying what with trucks?
well, in China, they had like the disinfectant trucks and they had
Really?
all, yeah, they
Okay,
had
now
all kind of stuff.
China get down though, because I mean, think about it. Think about SARS from the early 2000s. So China have been wearing masks for a very long time.
Right,
Think
right,
about that. They've been wearing masks since around 2001, 2002, and it started like with SARS, and then later on you had MERS and all of that. So they just accustomed to wearing masks, and I guess they got a whole routine protocol. If they spraying, they got spray trucks.
right.
Mm-hmm.
They almost set up like the Northeast for snow. Like
Hmm.
they on deck with it.
Right.
But yeah, so okay, a lot of people think it's real. Some people think it's a hoax. So what's your thought on it? What's your
Oh,
theory on it?
oh goodness. Okay, so I know it's a lot of debate about whether it's a hoax or not. I thought it was real. I am starting more and more to believe that it's a hoax. I do know that the virus itself is real. So just about to ramble on a bit. We've known about the coronaviruses for about we've known since like the 60s. Okay. This was something that I learned about in nursing school, but it wasn't, like what they're made, like it wasn't like it was the bubonic plague or anything. It was something that was mentioned briefly and then we moved on. Just, it was mentioned when we were talking about viruses, and so initially when they started talking about how it's spreading and people are dying and it's a respiratory infection, you kind of panic because you don't have any real details of the situation. It's a lot of unknowns. But now that we like a good 2 months into this, I'm starting to believe more and more it's a hoax because it does a whole lot of things are not adding up.
Okay.
So for example, um they were saying, you hear initially, okay, this is what we were talking about earlier, the Surgeon General. Initially, the Surgeon General was saying just wash your, like with any other virus, and to prevent any other infection, you wash your hands, keep your hands out your face. And that's pretty much it. And don't buy masks, that he actually had that on his Twitter page. Don't go out and buy masks because they're not doing anything to protect you against the coronavirus. But medical professionals do need them because we as medical professionals, we really do use the mask, right? But
Right.
now, so that was on
Yeah,
February.
hold
Hmm?
on real quick. Let's get into the mask. Now I talked to you offline. You said something about the mask and the size of the virus. Can
Oh
you,
yeah.
you talk about
Okay,
that?
so the N95 mask is a mask that's used, that we generally use if we suspect that a patient has tuberculosis, or if we know that they have tuberculosis. There's a special mask, and let me just give you a little details about the mask. The mask has to be fitted. So there's a special person who comes and they fit you for the mask, and then they put this hood on your head and spray some stuff, and you have to tell whether you can taste it or not. If you can taste it, then
Hmm.
the mask is not working. So there's a
I've done that
special
test before.
procedure for this, right?
Right.
Um, and so for that mask, it filters out microns 0.5 and larger. And so my first question was, well, what size is the virus? You know, and so after doing a bit of digging, the virus itself is, I think, 0.03 microns, which means that even an N95 mask ain't protecting you against anything.
Mm.
You know, it ain't doing shit. I'm sorry, am I allowed to curse?
Oh yeah.
Okay, it ain't doing shit to protect anybody against anyone. So the typical surgical mask that everyone is wearing, that's not doing anything either. Because the surgical mask is just to, you know, keep my germs to me. You know, it does more of protecting you from me than me from you. You know, it contains if I cough or if I sneeze or something like that. But so these masks aren't doing, if this is true, if what I read is accurate, then the N95 mask isn't doing anything to protect anybody against anything as well.
Mm.
So
Okay.
yeah.
I think I threw you off from what you were talking about earlier, but
Oh,
remember what you were saying.
okay. So the Surgeon General started off back in February, saying don't wear a mask. You're buying up basically don't buy a mask because you're purchasing up everything that the medical professionals need, you know, and you don't need a mask. It doesn't do anything to protect you. You know, just wash your hands, all the normal stuff that you're supposed to do, you know, wash your hands, keep your hands out your face. If you don't feel well, stay at home, that type of thing. So that was tweeted on February 29th. But then you fast forward ahead to the end of March. Now he's adding in wear a mask. You know, the best thing that you can do to stop the spread of the virus is to wash your hands, stay at home if you don't feel well, make sure that you wear a mask when you go out, and social distancing. So I'm not certain. I don't know if it's real. I'm starting to believe more and more that it isn't. And then when I look at the behaviors of my family and myself, so because I was very concerned about this at the beginning, I was very cautious in terms of what I was bringing in my home, how I came in a home, how my husband and myself, you know, we come in, go straight to the shower, doing everything to make sure that the clothes, you know, we contain everything and all of that. And it's like, so we've actually become far more relaxed. And that's why I'm starting to believe more and more that this is some bullshit.
Since you're saying it's some bullshit, right? All right. The numbers are saying that it's 150 people that die in New York City a day. And that number went from 150 to 500, 700. I think it's at less than 500 now. So explain that spike in the deaths.
Okay. Yes. I'm glad you asked. So, according to the chairman the director of the Illinois Department of Health, this is what she said on national TV. All you have to do, you can Google it or YouTube it, it will come up. And this is the example that she gave. She stated that if a patient is on hospice, so that means that we know that there is an impending death. We know that this person is getting ready to die. That is why they are on hospice. And that patient dies but has tested positive for COVID-19. It is automatically going to be ruled a COVID death.
But my question is though, if you're in hospice and you die before coronavirus, don't you still count in the number death?
I'm sorry. Okay, what do you mean?
Now, the number death for New York City was 150 to 175 people a day.
Okay.
So if you're in hospice and you die, don't that count in that number?
Yeah, you will count in that number, but it's depending on how they're saying it. So if they're saying that we had 150 COVID deaths, or are they saying that we just had 150 people in New York City die, period, today?
On average, before coronavirus.
So if it's on average, then yes, that would be included. So a person who just died on hospice, let's say they had cancer or something like that, they would be included in that 150 number as well.
Okay. So, but like I said, so you go from 150 to 500, 700 a day.
Mm-hmm.
People are dying from something that just came from somewhere.
Right. So that rabbit hole goes deeper as well. So as of right, so I can't speak for New York City, but here in Chicago, if a patient codes, meaning they stop breathing, their heart stops beating, they are not doing compressions, meaning they're not doing CPR. So remember, people have heart attacks every day too. I don't know the statistic in terms of how many people have a heart attack a day in a specific city, but if you go into the hospital complaining of chest pain and your heart stops because of a myocardial infarction, a heart attack, typically there ain't no typically to it. They're going to do compressions and they're going to do CPR. In this case, they are not doing CPR. So, is it truly that 700 people a day are dying of COVID itself? Or is it when you combine it with the fact that if your heart stopped, we're not doing anything? If you stop breathing, we're not doing anything.
Oh, okay.
Whether it's COVID related or not, they're not doing anything.
Mm, I got you. Yeah, that
But
would kind
that's
of
going
make
to
sense.
increase the number of people who are dying as well.
You think some people are probably having heart attacks because they don't want to deal with this, like they get stressed out, like COVID-19, put on gloves, like wash your hands and don't touch your face. Like
So
you
you
think the
got to,
media scam people to death too?
well, so I posted something before, and said, my heart is going out to the people who have mental disorders right now, even if it's something like depression, because all of this shit that's going on is going to play tricks on your mind, even if you're stable. Because think about it. One minute you're saying everybody's going to die. Be careful because it's deadly. You don't want to be anywhere near anyone who has this stuff. Then, specifically with nurses, they telling us, yeah, that's all true, but we're not going to give you masks to go in and take care of the patients, or you don't need all of that. You just need something. They're not giving us the proper supplies. Well, if this is deadly, as you all are saying that it is, how dare you send anybody in the room without a mask? But then you tell the general public, don't wear a mask because you don't need one. Then you tell everybody to wear a mask and wear it all the time and make sure you wear gloves and stay in the house. Don't go outside. It's a lot of conflicting, or go outside because you need to get some fresh air. You need to go out in the sun. It's a whole lot of conflicting stuff out there. So people who struggle, especially like with depression and all this stuff, their mind can get the best of them in times like this. So my heart is going out to them.
Mm. All right, you
Did
too.
I go left?
No. You good? I'm just reading some of the comments. They want to give you AIDS medicine and track and trace.
They want to track and trace everything, but the thing is, we already letting them track and traces. All you got to do is look at your phone. Your
Right.
phone go everywhere you go.
Yeah. So it's always a theory out there that
Absolutely.
world will put a chip in you. Have you ever seen that type of stuff in the hospital since you?
I have not seen anyone who is chipped, but I have read articles about people who have been chipped for various reasons. So, and we did debate the whole chipping topic back in the day. So you have your people who say that it's a great thing because it has your medical information on it. If there's any type of an emergency, if your kid goes missing and they're chipped, you can find them. All of these wonderful reasons to do it. And then you have your people who are on the other side of that saying no, because that's not what the real purpose of it is. And so the whole chip debate. So no, I have not actually seen anyone. But I do know that there are companies out there that will do it for you. And they put all of your data is in some little device that's
Oh, it's
inside of.
legal now, so that's legal.
Yeah. It's not illegal to put something inside of your body. Well, I mean, depending. No, you can get chipped. It's legal to be chipped.
Mm.
They were advertising it.
I never seen one, but
Yeah.
I know I heard some people do it with dogs. stuff.
Yeah, that was how it was rolled out to the population. Depending on who you ask, if you're talking to a certified conspiracy theorist, they go say that's how they introduced it to the population, to make sure that, you can find Fluffy at any time, in case Fluffy goes missing. So once you get accustomed to it, then now is if your kid goes missing and that type of thing. And so, but yeah, they were advertising it at one point. There was a commercial where a lady's in the park and her kid goes missing and she's panicking and whatnot. And then she pulls out like this, some type of device, and she follows it and she was able to find her kid who had wandered off. So they've been advertising it for a while. Well, I don't know. I think those commercials were pulled, but they actually do it. There's companies who you can go, like, how you go to lunch break and stuff like that. You can swipe for your lunch and all of that stuff by just waving your hand if you have the chip. Or you can get your food out of the vending machine if you just wave the chip. Right, exactly. Exactly.
People don't start cutting hands off.
Exactly.
You know, shopping with a nigga hand.
Exactly.
But yeah, man. So how many patients y'all see a day you at? I mean, is it a lot of COVID-19 patients in there? Because
I'm not in the hospital. I teach. So part of me teaching involves me being in the hospital as a clinical instructor. However, as soon as once they called the global pandemic, all of our clinicals were canceled because and I saw it coming. I knew it was coming because first they said we couldn't allow students to go into the room with patients who are on something called infection control, meaning they're suspected of having any kind of infection. Because when they have an infection, you're supposed to use the PPE. That's the personal protective equipment, right? Well, because there was a shortage due to COVID, they didn't want students using the PPE that they did have. And so they were telling us that we couldn't go into those rooms. But once they called the global pandemic, it was writings on the wall. We knew that the clinicals were going to be canceled because they don't want that liability. Now, what I can tell you, I'm hearing things on two different ends of the spectrum. So I'm in a nursing group, and on one end, I'm hearing nurses talk about how up in Michigan, they did a work stoppage a couple of weeks ago because the emergency rooms were overrun with patients. And I guess it was like 5 nurses who showed up for the shift, and they were ending up with 10 patients each, multiple patients who were on the ventilator, multiple patients who were dying. And so they were begging for the administration to bring in more nurses, call in some agency to assist. But then I go from that end of the spectrum to the opposite end, where I'm seeing nurses who are saying that they're in New York and they went out there on contract because they was trying to help out with this whole crisis thing, but they haven't been called in to work. They're being furloughed. They sitting in the hotel room waiting for weeks at a time to get a shift. So I'm hearing two different things, and this is just me and my observations, reading the comments and reading the question was, is anyone else being furloughed? This is the 3rd time I've been sent home due to low census. But then when you turn on any media outlet, you're hearing that the hospitals are being run down with patients and there aren't enough nurses. When all of this began, I was getting email requests for me to come and work at $4,000 and $5,000 a week. That's abnormal. That's double the pay. So
why you didn't jump on that?
Because I have to, as a Black nurse, I have to sit back and wait and see, because we're treated a certain type of way in the field. And so,
really? They be doing y'all like that too?
Hell yeah. What, you thought it was gonna be different because it was nursing? Absolutely.
I just want you to elaborate on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's a lot of talk about these ventilators are killing people.
Yeah.
To deal with that.
So the way that ventilators work, ventilators breathe for the patient. And so that's it. If you don't have the muscular capacity to inhale and exhale on your own, the ventilator is doing that for you. So based on what I've seen and what I've read and what I've heard as well, it's a couple of theories out there that the ventilators are actually doing more harm, because it's not that the people are having difficulty inhaling and exhaling. It's more that there's an issue with gas exchange in the lower lobes of the lungs. So in your lungs, you have these things called alveoli, and that's where the gas exchange takes place. That's where you breathe in the oxygen and you're letting out the CO2, and all of that gas exchange happens there. And so what's going on is that the alveoli, pneumonia means that there's fluid in the lungs, and that's typically where the fluid is at. Well, gas exchange can't take place if there's fluid there. And so again, it's not that you can't inhale and exhale, it's that you're being starved of oxygen. One of the doctors compared it to taking a person off of, regular ground and dropping them off like at the top of Mount Everest or something without prepping the body for it. So the air is thinner at higher elevation. So basically you're starving for oxygen. So that's what they're saying. So they're saying the ventilators actually are not helping, because the ventilators don't do anything in terms of gas exchange, other than blowing the air in you and then pulling it back out of you, because it breathes for you. That's all it's doing, but it's not doing anything in terms of the alveoli and the gas exchange.
Oh, that's a good breakdown there.
Yeah.
I was wondering, like, how in the world, if it's helping you breathe, how is it killing you? Like,
Yeah. So you can breathe in the oxygen, but if the oxygen can't actually get into the smaller portions of the lung because there's already fluid there, then it doesn't matter if you breathe the oxygen in. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. And so they're saying that there's other like technological alternatives that can be used that can help to promote the gas exchange that's needed. Another thing that I'm tripping over is that, so China has already been through this. They haven't had any like new diagnoses. They done closed up temporary hospitals and all this stuff. So why aren't we looking at whatever it was that they were doing in terms of treatment? If that's the epicenter of all of this, then why aren't we, looking at what they did as a benchmark to try to reduce the spread and risk here? So it's my understanding, like China was shut down for 6 months.
Right.
And that was because they didn't know what they were doing.
Go outside. They didn't do nothing. They stayed stuck in the crib.
And the reason
America
why
ain't doing that shit.
Right. The reason why, so yeah, I'm just saying, if this is real, if it is this serious, okay, so why don't we look at what they did and use that as a benchmark in order to stop the spread here? So if they use certain drugs, if they were doing certain routine procedures, such as turning and rotating their patient every couple of hours, and then the way that they were using their PPE, we need to actually look at that and learn from that, because the reason it took them 6 months is because they didn't know what they was doing. This was the first time that, anyone had this disease, or the COVID-19, or the 7th coronavirus or whatever. This was the first time that it had jumped over into humans. So they were the guinea pigs. And so we can learn a lot from what it was that they were doing. But if this is another reason I say that it's a hoax. If it is this serious, why aren't we looking at what they're doing? Why aren't we all comparing notes? Because that's what happens in the scientific community, especially with the spread of something to the point where it's a shut down the global economy. We need to be comparing notes if it really is this serious, to find out what it is that we can do to, prevent the spread, stop the spread, get on to the curing and all of that stuff.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the economics, man. America don't want to shut down. They don't want to lose billions and billions and billions and trillions of dollars, in my opinion, So I think, they like, shit, fuck it. Whoever dies, dies.
I agree that they have that attitude. Absolutely.
Especially the president, man. That's all he talks about. Money, 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 money.
Right. That's because he's a businessman.
Right. If it ain't got nothing to do with money, you don't even discuss it,
Yeah.
You don't care about middle class or poor people or even some rich people. He don't care about them dying from this stuff. As long as he don't die and it don't affect his family, it's all good. I mean,
Right.
like here in Georgia, they opened the state. We was the last ones to close the state. The first one to
And the
open.
first ones to open. So in the science field, y'all would be considered the control group. Let's see what happened to these Negroes first, and then we'll proceed with caution from there.
Right. I did a video the other day. I was on the west side of Atlanta, man. And I live on the east side. And, you know, people out here, like, you know, they 50-50 on the mask. But I went to the west side. Hey, it was very few people with masks on.
Mhm.
They out there barbecuing and washing their cars and just normal life shit, you know. Kids walking around with no masks and hanging around adults. And,
What's the demographic on the west side?
I mean, the whole Atlanta is pretty much black. I mean,
Okay.
you know, but on the west side they're a little wilder, you know.
Oh, okay.
The east
So the
side,
west
you
side
know,
is what you call the hood. Okay.
yeah. I mean, it just seemed like night and day, though, to be honest, because I was in the hood on the east side, and you know, guys were still wearing masks, and some wasn't. But west side, they was like, man, fucking masks. I mean, one dude I talked to, he had a mask in his pocket, and
Mm-hmm.
I was like, man, what you think about coronavirus? He was like, man, fuck coronavirus, man, trying to get this money. And I said, so you ain't worried about wearing no mask? I got a man, he put it out his pocket. Man, I got a mask right here, man. And I'm like, well, what the fuck is it gonna do good in your pocket? Like, you know. And what about all these folks making these little homemade masks trying to hustle? Now,
I'm
what
mad
you
at
think
them for
about
hustling.
that?
Get your hustle on. I'll be honest with you. I'm not mad at it because they said don't buy them. But okay, so here in Illinois, they just
Are
changed
those any good though? Like you sitting there
none of the
making
masks. If the virus actually is 0.03 microns, none of the masks are protecting anyone from anything. You know,
okay.
it's not stopping the spread of anything. So, I mean, but if you're required to wear them, look, hey, get your money. Go ahead and make them. I'm not mad at you. You know,
But
but
but by people making it, is that like kind of like giving out like a? I mean, they not medical doctors for one. People
right,
that making this stuff, but they not professionals.
right.
So is that hurting the people by thinking
No,
that they
because the masks
covered?
are made in China anyway. The masks are made over in Asia.
Right.
Right.
Everything
They're
made
not
in Asia.
made by medical professionals either.
Well, I mean,
What you mean, like the design?
yeah, I mean, expert obviously, put his input on it, but these folks in their houses like, come on, I got you, 5 for 20. You know what I'm saying? 3%.
So it's really just about okay, so any mask, let's assume that the virus is real, right? So any mask is a protective piece of protective equipment, right?
It
Now,
helps a little bit. It gotta
right,
help a little bit though, right?
right. Everything helps. Anything helps a little bit as opposed to going out barefaced, right? Assuming that you're actually trying to protect yourself from something. So anything can help in terms of being a face covering. It doesn't have to be at like a medical grade. But I mean, I saw a video where it was, I want to say they were in some remote part of Asia and they sewing on the sewing machine and the guy got on, he barefoot and this dirt all around. So, I mean,
That's the gas station, man.
right, exactly. So, but he had a whole line of masks and then they were cutting them off and stacking them up and getting ready to have them packaged.
Right, I seen that.
Like, right, we don't know where our stuff is coming from. We just trust that it's right. So why not give Kiki $5 for a mask that you can throw in a washing machine?
$5.
How
Hey,
much?
some of these folks want 10 and $20.
God damn.
They put a damn Falcon thing on it. They want 20.
Oh
Like,
wow. Oh, because of the designs, yeah.
and people, you see a lot of women, they got the mask with the little rhinestones on it, little
Oh yeah.
shiny.
And
Little
that's the mess, because the more crap that you have on the mask, that means there's the more places for a virus or any bacteria to land. That's why you want it to be, you've given it more surface area now.
absolutely, like it
Yeah.
can drop all on that thing now.
Yeah.
Like, man, what's wrong with these folks?
Because they're not thinking from the medical and scientific standpoint. It's about just, you said I gotta have on a mask, so let me go get a mask. And since I gotta cover up my face, I want to be cute.
I mean, these folks now, the stores requiring you to have a mask to go in, and they killing folks. Man, I ain't wearing no mask. Did you hear about the people that killed the family that killed the security guard? I mean, I'm laughing, but it ain't funny. But at the same time, like, you
Right.
hear
As soon as they started talking about black men having to wear masks, or us having to wear masks all the time, I was very concerned for black people, because it was going to be used as an excuse. And there you go. You confirming that. It was going to be used as an excuse to, continue with like police brutality and all of that.
oh yeah, they had a lot of stuff like that going on too in New York, in different places of the country. Yeah, them police. You see in one video, police handing out masks to white people in the park, and then the other video, you see them sitting on top of folks' head and shit. But they didn't have a
Yeah.
mask on. It's crazy, man. It's
Yeah.
crazy. But so a lot of people are saying, um, like the 5G got something to do with coronavirus. What
Yeah.
do you think on that?
I don't know a whole lot about the 5G, but so what I have read just is saying that the radiation from the 5G, I saw a lot of stuff about 5G earlier on. Is there's rumors that, I guess, when they flipped the proverbial switch, I'm gonna say, to turn on 5G, people was dropping dead left and right in Wuhan, China. And that the radiation, and you may not die from it, but it causes flu-like symptoms. We know that radiation, and from like the power lines and all that kind of stuff, we know that that causes cancer and different illnesses, and so they're comparing it to that. I don't know if it's true or not. I'm not certain.
Mm, I don't
That's
think
the
they
extent
got
of what
nothing.
I know, but I don't put anything past anyone.
I think there's enough radiation between TV, your cell phone,
The microwave,
microwave,
yeah,
and everything else in your house. I mean, if that ain't killed you,
right,
hell, 5G ain't gonna kill you, you know?
right. So I don't know. I don't know about that part of it. I've heard it, but I'm not certain. Hmm.
So when you think all this coronavirus is going to end, I mean, you think it's going to wear itself out eventually over the
I
summer?
think that it's going to, we can't go on like this indefinitely. I know that Illinois has a plan to open up, but I mean, just based on some of the other stuff that has gone on over time, I wouldn't be surprised if it just suddenly disappears. You start to hear about it less and less, and it just disappear. I wouldn't be surprised. Now, what I can tell you, what we're doing from a medical standpoint, at least in terms of the university, on the university side, I don't know what they're doing in a hospital, but from a university aspect, we're planning on. We're pretty certain that we're not going to be going back to clinicals anytime soon. Because the hospitals aren't going to let us in. The whole thing with the equipment and all that stuff, that's going to be out of whack for some time. I don't care how many millions of masks come in here to get everything distributed, it's all about liability and that type of thing. So on that aspect of me being a nursing instructor, I don't see us going back into anybody's hospital anytime soon. I don't know what the schedule is to reopen Illinois, so I'm not certain as to when the schools will reopen. In terms of the hospitals, I have no idea. Again, some hospitals I'm hearing are packed, other hospitals are empty. You're hearing one thing. It's going to be something different in Madison County, Illinois, or down in East St. or Edwardsville, Illinois, versus what's going on in Chicago versus what's going on in New York. It depends on how densely populated the place is and that type of thing. So all of that will determine what's happening, what happens going forward.
So what kind of advice can you give people on prevention of getting it, or if they do have it, what kind of advice can you give them to treat it? And is there a treatment for it? 'Cause I saw a video the other day said if you stay in the sun 20 minutes a day, it'll help you.
So there's all type of naturopathic things that people are advising, but I'm gonna say this: I am a nurse. I'm not a doctor. I cannot prescribe anything. So that's my disclaimer. I am not prescribing anyone anything, but I can tell you some of the things that we've done in my household in order to prevent. So my spouse works somewhere where there is a large number of people who have been diagnosed with coronavirus. So a couple of things that we've done in order, like as a just in case type of thing, when he comes in, he takes off his clothing, and like he doesn't come into the household with his clothes on. He like goes in the basement, takes those clothes off. When he does come into the house, he goes directly to the shower and takes a hot shower. At one point, we haven't been doing it as frequently now, but when this all first began, every single day we were drinking a homemade elixir. So I know that I have, my degree is in Western medicine, but I actually, in my home, I don't really practice Western medicine outside of taking like an ibuprofen here and there. So what we were doing naturopathic type things. So boiling fresh ginger, fresh turmeric, garlic, lemon, and lime in a pot, and drinking the broth made from that, so we were doing that. He was standing over, you see the video circulating about people inhaling steam from water. We were doing that as well because of what I know about viruses. Viruses degrade with heat. So we were doing things that, that like trying to emulate kind of like a steam room with the heat thing. And we haven't had as much as a cough, a sniffle, or nothing. And then another thing that we're doing is we're laying off of the meat. I was vegetarian anyway. So my husband and my daughter are eating much less meat. And then we're eating foods that promote the immune system. So we're eating natural vitamin C, not taking vitamins and supplements and that type of thing. So there's a basket of oranges in here, mangoes and that type of thing, kiwi, things that are very high in vitamin C, and they eat those things daily. So that's what we've been doing on my end. In terms of what they may do in a hospital setting, I would imagine that they would give some type of an antiviral, but they don't know what antiviral to give yet, supposedly. I don't know. I mean, I've heard things like stuff coming out of India. They found a mixture of antivirals that are very promising and seem to be working really well. The only thing that I mean, besides those things, the only other things that we're doing is, we're washing our hands.
Right.
That's why I said I started to I was like, wait a minute, is it really that the naturopathic stuff is working like that? Or, is it a hoax? So, because again, we haven't had so much as a cough or a sniffle in here.
Right. So. Yeah. So do you know anybody that died from it personally, or?
I do. So again, as a nurse, I also work in the community and see patients. And so one of my co-workers for that organization that I work for did die. And he did test positive for COVID. Now, he also was very, very ill at the beginning of 2019. He was in the hospital, in and out of the hospital for an extended period of time throughout 2019. So this is pre-COVID. So that means that he had comorbidities. I I don't know what those comorbidities were. And so I can imagine that it was probably some hypertension going on, more than likely some diabetes going on, that type of thing. So when they talk about comorbidities, comorbidities make you subject to pretty much or being sensitive to anything.
All right.
So it would make you more susceptible. And he had a few comorbidities. And so it was shocking that he died. But when you really think about it, it's like, the person who has a healthy body who just so happens to catch a cold is probably going to recover quicker than that person who has other ailments going on. Even if it's just a cough that lingers a little bit longer, they tend to hold on to illness a bit longer.
Right. All right. Can you see the comment right there?
Yeah.
He's saying, I'm assuming because she worked in the health field, has she been tested? And how often are they testing first responders?
I have not been tested. And I won't be tested. So there's a couple of things going on with testing. I'm glad someone actually asked that question. So I was suspicious.
Uh-oh. I got corona, y'all. I got corona. Y'all saw that shit.
I was suspicious that my sister-in-law had COVID, and so I did go in to assess her. She's my sister-in-law, right? So I went in to assess her, and I did take all of the proper
mask on.
I did have on a mask. So I took the proper precautions because this was relatively early in on this. She had each and every last symptom. Okay.
She did?
Yes. She lost her sense of taste. She lost her sense of smell. She had body aches. The only thing that we were not able to confirm was her temperature. So when I took her temperature, she did not have a fever, but she looked like she was sick as hell. And so, but she went and got tested, and her test came back negative. So that was one thing that made an eyebrow go up. Another thing that I just saw recently, and I did see this on U.S. News and World Report. So it is a credible news source, new media outlet. The president of Tanzania apparently tested some non-human samples, and they came back positive. So he said that he tested a goat, a pawpaw fruit, so a piece of fruit, and a sheep. And he wrote on there, the names of individuals with the appropriate ages, and those tests came back positive. So
now, I'm hearing that some people saying that those test results might not be accurate either, man.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So if a sheep and a goat can test and a piece of fruit can test positive, then what are we talking about in terms of the accuracy of these tests?
Right.
So as I said, I mean, it's so for the people who, everybody says conspiracy theories, but when you start seeing stuff like this, you can't help but have an eyebrow go up.
Right. Now, Kevin is saying the system is broken if you're a nurse on the front lines and you don't get tested. And
but I'm not
a nurse on the front lines. What I'm hearing, a lot of nurses and stuff, they prohibit them from getting tested. And like you said, I brought on a brother, Brand Jewel, around the world. Shout out to him. And his job, they got mad that he got tested. He had to stay home for I think a week or so, 10 days.
Right. So just so you know, the CDC was telling the nurses and the medical organizations that healthcare providers did not need to be tested unless they display symptoms. That's another reason why I'm questioning how they're handling this. Why would you want to wait until I start displaying symptoms or showing symptoms of COVID before you test me, especially if you know that I'm surrounded by people with COVID? That it would make sense to test me routinely, right? But that's not what they're doing. And then the next word from the CDC was that even if you test positive, so, or I'm sorry, not necessarily the CDC. This was coming from the facilities, but it was recommended by the CDC as well. That even if you test positive, it's still okay for you to come to work as long as you don't have any signs or symptoms. Now, that's completely contradictory to what they were saying in the beginning. Also, firsthand knowledge of this
If you
myself.
positive, you can come to work. Hold up. Let me make
Hold
sure I
on.
heard you.
Yes. Come to work. Come to work even if you test positive, as long as you do not have any signs or symptoms. So that was what was being said at one point. Then, and I know this firsthand because this is going on where I live at in my residence. Okay. A relative of mine, when our school system shut down back on March, I believe it was the 13th or something like that, because someone in the school system tested positive. Well, my family member works at the same school as that person, so she was required to quarantine. So she had to quarantine and shelter in place. This began in February, okay? She had to shelter in place for 14 days and she was being monitored daily by the CDC. They were asking her a series of questions. She had to check her temperature every day, report if she sneezed, if she coughed, a bunch of stuff, right? Now, with the dangers, with as dangerous as they're saying that this virus is, she asked, should her husband and kids also stay in the home for that 14 days in quarantine? And they told her, no, your husband can go to work and your children can go to school. Now, if they suspect that she came in contact with someone who tested positive, who we know is positive and who we know is sick, why would they allow her, if they think that she could possibly have this, why would they allow her to go to, I mean, what her husband to go to work and go out in public, but she has to stay in the house? She has to stay in the house, but the kids can go to school and he can go to work when they're both around, when they're all around her when they come home. That does not make sense. That's called cross contamination.
Really?
Yes.
Man, that's that's crazy, man. It's so much misinformation out here, man. It's you know, it's wild, man. It's definitely wild. Um, so we getting close to an hour on the show. Y'all have any good questions for her? Go ahead and post it. Um, y'all enjoying the show? Consider donating to the channel, to the cause. I do have another show I'm doing at 11:15. It's gonna be on the Ahmad Amari case, the brother that was jogging and got killed. We're gonna do a live on that at 11:15. I'm gonna try to put together a panel on that. If you want to join the panel on that, Miss Lotus Nurse, that'll be fine. I'll send you a link.
Okay.
So guys, if you have any more questions, post it up now. I want to try to do my lives no more than an hour, because that way people can watch it. Do
Okay.
it too long, they usually don't watch. But yeah. So any last things you want to tell the people? Any
When it, I just want to say that when it comes to COVID, I really feel as though the CDC and all of them have us pretty much doing a hokey pokey right now. Um, so I just want to encourage people to use their brain. You know that you need to
right?
wash your hands. Do that. You know that if you're going to sneeze or cough, you know that should be covered up. Um, Assuming that the whole COVID virus and all of this stuff is real, well, it is not healthy to stay indoors all the time. You do need sunlight and you do need to go out and breathe fresh air. The air, they say that the air in your home is dirtier than the air that's outside, and if you're just sitting in the house breathing that all day, just basically just use your own common sense you know
Make sure, yeah. I mean, like I said, make sure you drink orange juice. You get your vitamin D outside, 20 minutes a day. That's what they recommend. And drink plenty of water. And stay on them fruits, man. Clean your immune system out, man.
Right. Clean your immune system, clean your body, lay off of the meat, definitely lay off of the pork. Eat stuff that promote the immune system, citrus fruits and things that are high in natural vitamin C. So yeah, and take care of your body. Don't use this as a time to sit up and eat ho-hos all day. That's gonna degrade the immune system.
All right, Bronx Thumb says, Lotus Nurse, do you recommend medical marijuana? I mean, I don't know what this got to do with the virus, but anyhow.
Do you mean medical marijuana for COVID or just in general?
I think he talking about it, you know.
I'm an advocate for marijuana.
All right.
But again, I cannot prescribe anything. So I'm a nurse. I'm not a doctor. I can't prescribe.
Lynette says, definitely not a hoax. Real people dying from it. Real people in the hospital fighting for their lives.
I agree. People are fighting for their lives. So I know that people are getting sick from this, right? But when you compare the number of people who are getting sick and who are currently ill, with the global population, it's the equivalent, and this is not to be insensitive to anyone who's lost anyone as a result of this, but when you compare that, this is like the equivalent of a drop of rainwater in the ocean. 80,000 people died of the flu in like 2016, but only a fraction of that has happened. And I'm not saying only as in, again, to be insensitive, because death is death, and so it's always going to be a sensitive topic. But when you compare it in the grand scheme of things, it hasn't taken very many lives on, in terms of globally, and I think that a lot of this is being hyped up by the media. And because it's something new, something that we didn't know a whole lot about, or don't know a whole lot about, and we're learning as we go. And so who's to say that some of those deaths aren't caused because we're making mistakes, because we are learning as we go.
Right. It's so much different information. It's crazy.
Right.
Any chemical reaction or anything from masks? I don't.
I guess anyone can have allergies. So, I mean, it would depend on if you're allergic to something, but I have not personally heard of anyone having a chemical reaction or an allergic reaction from wearing a mask.
Right. I mean, and then like you got these masks people making and all this, the COVID. I mean, the N95 and stuff. You take it off, put it on, you lay it down, put it on. I mean,
Right.
it's like it could be on the mask. And
Right. And then with the reusable masks, I don't even know if people are actually washing them. So you're outside all day with this mask on. What has it been exposed to? And then you bring it in, you lay it down, you put it back on the next day. It needs to be washed. It's on your face. And the face is more sensitive. So I can see someone having a reaction for that reason. But I have not heard of anything with anyone having a chemical reaction.
oh, okay. Alex said he's in Dominican Republic, and they take you to jail if you don't have a mask. Dumb as fuck.
Yeah. Well, in Illinois, they started requiring people to wear a mask, but people didn't listen to the complete rule or law, however it is you want to say it. So we have to wear a mask if we enter into any store. But as of right now, everybody in Chicago, it doesn't matter if they're the only person on the block. It doesn't matter if they're the only person in the car. Everybody got on masks and gloves right now. And so I let me say this. I personally only wear a mask when I'm walking into a patient's house. My patients are immune compromised, and I do not want to give them anything. So I do use extreme caution when I'm entering into my patient's household, because if I sneeze, they could die. You know, those are the patients that I go see in the community. And so I'm very cautious in terms of that and wearing the gloves and wearing the mask and all of that. But see, if I'm going to the store or if I'm running an errand, I don't have on a mask until I get to the door because I'm required to have one.
Right. Shout out to Finding Love in Dominican Republic. Thanks for being on the show, Miss Lotus Nurse, and Rotate for inviting her. Shout out to you. Appreciate that donation. I thought I was gonna get out here without getting a donation, but appreciate the one donation. But anyhow, so you'll be able to come back and do another show with us about love and relationships.
Oh
And
yes, I can't wait to the love and relationships.
right. I kind of wanted to do that tonight, but I wanted them to warm up to you. Because
Okay.
I do have a tough audience some nights. It's only 51 in here now. Sometimes it be over 100 something. And you know, a lot of these guys are single and, you know, they had past bad experiences with love. So, you know, they don't be want to hear that love shit. So anyhow, if you're available on the weekend, perhaps we could set something up.
I'm available.
Maybe Saturday or something like that during the daytime.
That works well. I'm available. Absolutely.
This show we'll try to put together a little small panel,
Okay.
and you know we won't have any time limit on that one, but because I know they can take all damn day.
Oh, I see an interesting comment.
Where? Which one?
It says here, based on your assessment and observations, when do you think we should travel? Ooh, that one I don't know. I'm annoyed by the travel situation myself because I have multiple trips booked and I'm being refunded without even asking for the refunds. I would say that it would, for me personally, I will not be traveling until, you know, countries have been reopened for a while. And once they get back into the normal swing of things, that's when I'll start booking again. Because different services are shut down, not because I'm afraid of contracting the virus or anything like that, but more so because I don't want to go somewhere and not be able to fully enjoy it because certain things are shut down still in the aftermaths of this.
Right. Now I'll say this. I was coming from Colombia. I think this is about 2 years ago. My allergies was messing with me real bad. And I swear to y'all, I coughed on that plane from the time we left to the time we reached Florida, man. And it was so bad, it was embarrassing to the point where I had to put my jacket over my head and just literally, I couldn't stop coughing.
You ain't gonna be able to do that no more, homie.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So if you get on the plane next to somebody and they doing that, I mean, I've been on another plane where a person they opened up an orange, and they didn't see no orange, and the girl next to me was allergic to orange, and she's freaked out. I mean, she was like literally like. So that just goes to show you, like, if she could smell an orange from a few seats back, and it affect her body like that.
Yes.
This virus can just go throughout that plane and get into your lung. So all y'all want to jump on them planes, you know, hey.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to jump on a plane right now anyway, just because, like you said, first of all, the air is recirculated, so it's recycled. So I wouldn't want to breathe that in, especially right now with all this going on. But yes, in terms of what you're saying, so that we don't realize how far particles travel.
Right.
And you have like these micro droplets that travel and you're not aware of. So even when you're just talking, not how they say it don't spread. So not the person that does a lot of spitting when they're talking, Joe. A person with a dry mouth when they talking, they're still releasing micro droplets. So
even when you're talking,
yes, even when you're talking.
Damn. So I guess guys, like you see how pollen floats in the air and you see it. I mean, this stuff is doing the same thing. I mean,
Yeah, it is. It is. And so
this is a good point right here. If they shut the Olympics down, this shit is serious. Like,
I
I
was
mean,
watching that situation since February. So I knew, so it's serious when they've shut down the economy. That's what has made my eyebrow go up. Like, what the hell is really going on here? I know they're not shutting this down over a virus because I mean everything was shut down. Was shut down at one point except for food sources. So your grocery stores is open and they still had the fast food restaurants. So they're doing a rollout in Illinois now where they are opening things in phases. So this past week they opened up the like the state parks and the golf courses and that type of thing. So they're doing a slow rollout. But it was serious when all this when they started shutting things down because it's a couple of things that America don't play about, and this money is one of them.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all right. So thanks for coming on. Are you planning on starting a YouTube page or what's the
I
deal?
think I am. I think you done gave me a bug.
Y'all think she need to start a YouTube page? Hit one.
This is dope as fuck.
Hit one if y'all think she should start a page. And so if you do start a page, are you just gonna focus on the nursing side, or you gonna do everything, right?
Yeah, I do anything. I talk about any and everything. I'm planning to go back to school for I want to be a certified sexologist. So when I tell you I can talk about anything, I can talk about anything.
I hear you. I hear you. Well, we'll try to bring that up Saturday if we do the show. Um, Shout out to Finding Love in DR. There's a brother right here. He's all about that love too. So maybe we can get him on the show with you, and we all can talk about this love thing. You know, so everybody telling you, yeah, go ahead and start it
Okay,
up.
okay. So one is yes.
Huh?
Is it number one is yes?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
shucks.
Everybody said fired up. He said three. I don't know what that means, but I think he
Oh,
just
snap.
wanted attention. So I just gave him a little attention. You know what I'm saying? But
Okay.
I appreciate you coming on, and guys, we'll start that next live at 11:15. You know,
I appreciate you having me.
so I'm gonna send you a link if you're interested in jumping on that show. I mean, if not, I understand it's gonna be late. But
Nope. I'm gonna be back.
all right, y'all, she gonna be back. Lotus says she gonna be back. But all right, so I'll see y'all at 11:15. And y'all hit me up, fellas, in the WhatsApp. Shout out to Big Marcus. But
Yes,
appreciate you
shout out
coming
to
on.
Big Marcus.
Appreciate you coming on.
All right.
And talk to you later.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.